In this next video, and I hope the last video for Python tutorials, I'm going to build on the idea of loop, which I did in the last one. Loop statements are statements that go around and repeat code a certain number of times. Again, there's a definite loop, goes around a fixed number of times, and in this video I want to talk about indefinite. There's no fixed number of times it goes around. In the last video, I used the for loop, very simple idea, very common type of loop in different programming languages. And it's a bit strange. You've seen in the last video, you have a counter variable that goes in a range from 1 to 5, which actually goes 1, 2, 3, and 4. It never actually does the 5. Such a bit of a strange thing the way Python does it. I'm going to build on the last video by commenting out this one. So I'm not going to execute that. And then down below, I have a different loop structure. And I'm going to uncomment that. And that is, I better be careful. I want to still have a comment on that. And this is called a while loop. And some of you can maybe have seen it or can guess what going to happen. The while loop repeats or iterates an indefinite number of times. If you remember, in 2 videos ago, we used the if statement. It's a conditional statement, and it checks this condition. If that's true, does this. If that's true, that's true. And if any of those are not true, if it's false, do this. So there's this true-false thing going on. A while loop is like that. You have a while. I'm going to just structure a little differently here. The while loop has a true-false statement. And all of the statements, or all of the computer commands, coded commands here, will get executed. So all of this will get executed while that statement is true. So like all programs, start at the top, execute each line, scroll down, execute. When it gets to this while loop, it will look at that condition and it will decide if it's true or if it's false. And then if it's true, it will execute this. When it gets to here, right to the end, it will come back up and check the condition again. Still true? Okay, execute. At the end, come back up, check the condition. Still true? And it keeps doing this an indefinite time. And only when this condition gets false will this loop end and this print statement gets done, and the program continues on to the end of the program or whatever it is. Okay, so again, true, false. When it's true, do this. When it's finished being true, that. And there's a danger here. What if this condition never goes false? You get yourself trapped as a computer programmer, and this is a logic error. It's not a syntax error, it's a logic error. You put a program together with a loop that never ends, and they call it an infinite loop. It's a bad thing to do in programming. You don't want infinite loops because it will go around infinitely if you're not careful. Now, I'm going to show you a little demo how I did it, and then I'm going to show you some of the mistakes or trappings that you can get into. Before I started the loop, I gave a value of 0 and I integerized it. I forced it to be an integer and I assigned it to a variable called age. Remember, you can't do apples and oranges here. So if I want to compare age to the value of 0, then age has to be an integer. If I make this a real number or a float number, then I have to float that one. They have to agree, like we saw before. Apples and apples, oranges and oranges, and wherever that expression goes. So I started doing that on purpose because I want to make sure my variable is an integer and I want to make sure it has a value. So while that value in RAM is greater than or equal to 0, do this. Let's see what happens. Oops, sorry, I'm going to kill that. Let me run it again. Okay, start with a new shell window. I just want to try to get this off your screen. Okay. I lost my window. There it is. So here we are. It's in here, and right now, please enter your age. Enter a negative value to stop. So I'm sitting here at this input, and I'm going to just put in 5. It doesn't matter. This time through the loop, your age is 5, which is this. This time through your loop, your age is 5. Print that blank statement, comes back up. Is age greater than or equal to 0? Well, yes, it is, because it was 5. I could put 34 in, press enter. This time through the loop, your age is 34. Again, back in the loop, ask me to enter a name. All right, I could enter some crazy number. Wrong with that because it's greater than or equal to 0. Now, obviously, nobody's that old, and you might put an if statement in your program and say, hey, you could put an if statement and say, hey, what are you doing? You can't add that, you know. Again, as a programmer, you can do whatever you want to do. But in this case, I did something kind of stupid. 0. What's going to happen? If I enter 0 in here, it's going to come back around and check. Is the value you entered greater than or equal to 0? And if it's true, it will do this. Well, of course it's true. 0 is greater than or equal to 0. Now, minus 9. What's going to happen? Surprise, surprise. All of a sudden, the indefinite loop is done. Why is the program finished? See how it's blinking with those little arrows? Because this print statement just got done. The while loop is done. The value of age is now minus 9. Why does it say minus 9? Well, in the time through the loop, on the last time through the loop, I entered minus 9. It printed out minus 9, and then it came up and checked the condition. Remember, I entered minus 9, I printed out minus 9, and then I came back up and checked. And then minus 9 is less than or equal to 0. Yeah, is minus 9 greater than or equal to 0? No, that's false. So it stops doing the loop, jumps past this, but does execute that. And that's why you see this coming out. Some students get a little confused. Why did it print it out? Well, just the way I structured my program, it printed it out. Okay, so this can be an indefinite loop. You could get it stuck in an infinite loop if you put a condition in here where it's impossible to be true. Impossible to be false. It's going to be always, always, always true. Okay. So you have to watch for that when you're doing your programming. Now, I was going to try this. What will happen if I do this? If I block that out, watch what happens. Okay, I crash the program. I try to run it again. It does the introduction. Okay, so it did the introduction screen. And then it's coming down here and it's executing, and it comes to here and it says, is age greater than or equal to 0? And it says age is not defined. That's the error. Why? You're trying to execute this true-false statement, so it runs off to RAM and looks for a variable called age. But there is no variable called age because you didn't assign it a value here. That's why you need to do that. That's why that was there. And you see that error sometimes when students are writing programs. They forget to have that line in there. And they just say, well, is age greater than or equal to 0? And then you get an error because you never told the computer program, in a sense, you never told the computer program a value for the variable you want to use. So every time you're doing these kind of expressions and you want to compare values, you better have that value in RAM, and it better have a value in it. You have to have the variable and it has to have a value. Otherwise you get these kinds of errors. Okay, that is a simple example of a while loop, which is an indefinite loop because it can go as many times as you need to or as few times as you need to. But the same idea. Whatever is tabbed in, that gets executed in the loop. When the loop condition is false, you're done. That's it. Go give it a try.